Okay, welcome back. We're going to start with the second grammar from Unit 3B, Connecting Contrasting Ideas. So in our box here, you can see we have a list of contrasting words and phrases, but there's really no description or definition or examples. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up a chart. All right, so we have our chart. And you can download the PDF file from your notes. So the first one we're going to look at is despite and in spite of. And these are actually prepositions. They're used as prepositions. And what did we learn about prepositions and what words can follow prepositions? Back in Unit 1, remember they both can be followed by a noun or a gerund. Okay, so basically, despite and in spite of have the same meaning. Okay, so basically, if you say despite something, that means one thing is not going to have an effect on the other thing, or in spite of. Okay, for example, we could say, in spite of the rain, we enjoyed the picnic. Okay, there should be a period here. So the rain didn't affect how we enjoyed the picnic. You know, it rained, but we still enjoyed the picnic. Okay, the rain didn't affect that. You could say, despite the rain, we enjoyed the picnic. Okay, how about this one? Despite leaving early, see here's the gerund, despite leaving early, he still missed the bus. In spite of leaving early, he still missed the bus. So leaving early did not help. He still missed the bus. Okay, so when you say in spite of or despite something, whatever that is doesn't affect what happens in the main clause. Okay, so that's your contrast phrase or clause. Then you have the main clause. He still missed the bus. We enjoyed the picnic. Okay, so whatever happened in despite or in spite of, that does not affect the main clause. It doesn't affect what's happening. Okay. Okay, so let's look at the next one, although and even though, and we kind of use these interchangeably. Okay, let's see, they have the same meaning. They are adverb clauses showing opposition, and they're followed by a clause. Okay, so whatever you put with although and even though, you have to have a clause with that, a subject and a verb. Okay, we'll look at an example in a moment. Also, it's important, it says add a comma after the adverb clause when although and even though begin a sentence. Okay, for example, although it rained a lot, comma, or even though it rained a lot, comma, I enjoyed my vacation. Okay, so the meaning is very similar to despite and in spite of. It's basically the same meaning, except although and even though are adverb clauses. They're not prepositions. So that means they're kind of modifying verbs. Even though it rained a lot, even though something happened, you can't say even though the rain. You have to say even though what? A subject and then a verb. You could also switch the clauses. I enjoyed my vacation even though it rained a lot. Or I enjoyed my vacation although it rained a lot. Okay, so basically with all of these you can switch your information. I mean, you can switch your clauses, not your information. You could say, he still missed the bus despite leaving early. Okay, you can do that. Sometimes we want to express the contrast first. So sometimes that contrast phrase, that contrast clause is first. But when it's first, you need a comma. Okay, let's look at the next one. We have however, nevertheless, and on the other hand. Okay, it says that these words are transitions. They're used to start a second sentence that contrasts the information in the first sentence by showing an unexpected result. So, according to these rules, you need to start a second sentence with these words. Okay, so let's look at that. These transitions are followed by a comma. So in the second sentence, you say, however, comma, nevertheless, comma. Let's look at the first example. The city is very expensive. So that's the first sentence. Now you're going to contrast something with that information. However, or on the other hand, comma, you can use either one of those. I love living here. Okay, so it's kind of like that negative and positive again, or positive and negative. See, here the city's expensive. Okay, and then the contrast. I love living here. However, I love living here. You could say the city is very expensive. Nevertheless, I love living here. All right, let's look at some more examples below. These are already filled in. Number 1, although I was tired, we have E, I couldn't sleep. You could say, I couldn't sleep although I was tired. You could say even though. Use them the same way. Look at number 2, I like my job, D, despite the low salary. Or, despite the low salary, comma, I like my job. Okay, or you could say, in spite of my low salary. Okay, so we've got some kind of contrasting ideas here. Okay. Number 3, I walked home, B, in spite of the rain. Or in spite of the rain, comma, I walked home. So the rain didn't stop me from walking home. Okay, I didn't call a taxi or an Uber or I walked home. The rain didn't affect me. Number 4, we weren't close friends, C, even though we went to the university together, or although we went. You could say, even though we went to the university together, comma, we weren't close friends. So again, you can switch these clauses as long as you keep the information in the correct clauses. Look at 5. Despite his age, he swims every day. Or in spite of his age, he swims every day. Or he swims every day despite his age. Okay, so hopefully as you read these sentences, the meanings will make sense with the contrasts. Remember, with the contrasts, you thinking opposite or thinking positive and negative information. Okay, we're going to do some sentences of our own. Okay, now if you recall back in our reading, we had some contrasts here. However, even though, in spite of all the late night activity, the crime rate is high. On the other hand, it can sometimes be difficult to find a job. Here the apartments are affordable. Okay, the rent is affordable. On the other hand, it's difficult to find a job. So we're dealing with kind of, positive and negative, as we said before. All right. So let's go back, look at some sentences. So we have an example, although I would or wouldn't like to live in this town forever, and we can choose one. They chose would. Although I would like to live in this town forever, comma, remember we need a comma with the contrast phrase, I'll have to move if the rents go up. Okay, so you like the town, you could live there forever, but you have although, so there's a contrast. I'll have to move if the rent goes up. Okay, so let's go to some sentences. Number 2, there are not many or a lot. We can choose one. Not many or a lot of things I like about this town. So we can choose one, but then we need to contrast. Okay, so let's see what we have. We can do the same thing. We say there are not many. There are not many things I like about this town. However, I have a great job here. Or, however, all my family is here, So you see, there's not many things I like about this town. Now, if you said, there are a lot of things I like about this town. However, I'll have to move if my rent goes up. You know, kind of the same idea we saw before. There's a lot of things I like about this town. However, I'm having trouble finding a job. Okay, so you could say that. And for the answers here, I will have some other examples that you can read here. We're just kind of, there's a lot here. We're just going to put one example, but I'll include a few more in your answer key. All right, number 3, even though finding an apartment is easy or difficult in this town, what? Okay, so we have our contrast here, even though, so that means we need a comma, it means we need a comma. Even though finding an apartment is, so even though finding an apartment is easy in this town, the job market is not very good. Okay, so, you know, you're having trouble finding a job. Okay, you can find a place to live easily, but it's difficult finding a job. You could say, even though finding an apartment is difficult in this town, the rent is great. That's why it's difficult, because everybody, you know, has found an apartment or a house, you know. So it's difficult to find, but the prices are great. Okay, something like that. How about this one? Despite the high cost of living in this city, comma, there are a number of, or there are no. Okay, let's pick a number of. So you could say, despite the high cost of living in this city, there are a number of free activities and things to do. Okay. You just have to look for them. Free concerts, you know, family activities, whatever. All right, number 5. The spring, summer, fall, winter. Choose one. Okay, here is very nice. On the other hand, okay, so I'm thinking of Texas. Let's think about the North Texas area, okay? Let's see, the spring or the fall. I'm going to pick the fall. Here is very nice. On the other hand, the allergies are terrible. And you could say that about the spring. The spring here is very nice. It's very beautiful. On the other hand, the allergies are terrible for many people. Okay, so nice weather, but you get bad allergies. Number 6, most people in this town close early or late. In spite of that, okay, let's see. Most places in this town close. Most places in this town close early. In spite of that, there are many people still out. Okay, so you still see a lot of people out and about. Okay, so even though a lot of places close early, there's still a lot of activity. You could say most places in this town close late. In spite of that, there are not many people out. So you think of the opposite. Okay, let's look at the last one, number 7. The areas around this town are mainly rural, suburban, urban. And then we have nevertheless. So for this one, you could say, let's see if you said rural. Okay, and what is rural? Rural is very, we say very, you know, out in the country. Okay, opposite of the city. It's like farms, you know, a lot of farmland. Okay, fields. Okay, if you said the areas around this town are mainly rural, nevertheless, many people are moving here. Okay, You know, sometimes when there's a lot of rural area, you don't see too many people trying to move up that way, you know, and unless they just, you know, want to, you know, have a lot of, you know, acreage or land. But say something like that. Okay, so we'll have some more examples for these that you can look at, and otherwise this would be a very, very long video. So, you know, you may even have your own ideas for these. Just make sure that it is, you know, a contrast, you know, something that either you wouldn't think about, or something unexpected, for, you know, however or nevertheless, or on the other hand, something, you know, positive or negative.